From LPM,
Louisville Public Media.
Support comes from Vision Zero. On foot or behind the wheel, safety is a shared responsibility. And Vision Zero Louisville believes 0 roadway fatalities is the only acceptable amount. Their mission is to create safe roads by design, engineering solutions, and education. More information at visionzerolouisville.org.
In honor of Military Appreciation Month, Verizon thought of a lot of different ways we could show our appreciation, like rolling out the red carpet, giving you your own personal marching band, or throwing a bumping shindig. At Verizon, we're doing all that in the form of special military offers. That's why, this month only, we're giving military and veteran families a $200 Verizon gift card and a phone on us, with a select trade-in and a new line on select unlimited plans. Think of it as our way of flying a squadron of jets overhead while launching fireworks. Now that's what we call a celebration, because we're proud to serve you. Visit your local Verizon store to learn more. $200 Verizon gift card requires smartphone purchase $799.99 or more with new line on eligible plan. Gift card sent within 8 weeks after receipt of claim. Phone offer requires $799.99 purchase with new smartphone line on Unlimited Ultimate or Postpaid Unlimited Plus. Minimum plan $80 a month with autopay plus taxes and fees for 36 months. Less $800 trade-in or promo credit applied over 36 months. 0% APR. Trade-in must be from Apple, Google, or Samsung. Trade-in and additional terms apply.
welcome to On Track. I'm Aisha Jaffer. May is National Foster Care Awareness Month, a time to recognize the important role foster families play in our communities. According to Adopt U.S. Kids, there are currently more than 400,000 children in foster care across the country, including over 8,000 right here in Kentucky. Today, we're checking in on the state of foster care in our region, what's working, where the challenges lie, and how families and organizations are navigating it all. Joining us to discuss these issues are two guests who bring firsthand experience and professional insight. Robby Gulick is a licensed clinical social worker and the vice president of therapeutic foster care at Home of the Innocents, a Louisville nonprofit supporting children and families through foster care, adoption, and pediatric services. Robby, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
And we're also joined by Christy Lucas, one of Home of the Innocents' longtime foster and adoptive parents. She has been advocating for children for over 20 years as a social worker, site director, and a parent. Christy, thanks so much for joining us on Track.
Thank you for having me.
Christy, I want to start with you. What drew you to become a foster parent?
So I started my career as a social worker with Child Protective Services. That's a very difficult job. And in with that, sometimes when you place children in foster care, there'll be multiple children in a family, and they would have to break those children up and place them in multiple homes. As I progressed in my career, and then as I did in my personal life, I got married. And as we were trying to start a family, we found out we couldn't have children biologically. So I knew there was a need for children in foster care to have homes. More importantly for me, it was to keep siblings together. So we focused our efforts on fostering to adopt children in foster care that were a sibling group. So that's how that started.
That's really cool. And what about you, Robby? What led you to working with foster care?
So back in my youth, I worked at Keith's Hardware and had a coworker that grew up in the foster care system, and I knew I wanted to go into social work, and he gave me kind of his background and talked to me a lot about it. And just said, if you ever go into this line of work and are working specifically with youth in foster care, make sure that you really listen to them, because that's the one thing that I felt growing up is I didn't have adults that were actually listening to what my needs were and what I wanted as far as navigating the foster care system. So that always kind of stuck with me, and this opportunity came up. And I had a couple of choices of different things that I could do, and I just kept having him ring in the back of my head. And I'm glad that I chose this route. It's not something that I necessarily thought I was going to be doing for as long as I have, but I've been doing it for 10 years now. Started out as a clinician working with this population, and I can't imagine a more important line of work as far as working with this population and supporting these foster parents.
So for listeners who might not be familiar, can you give us an overview of Home of the Innocents and the role it plays in Kentucky's foster care system? Yeah,
so Home of the Innocents does all kinds of different things. We have a residential portion to Home of the Innocents where foster youth are actually living on our campus. We also have something called the Coast Ayers Complex Center for children that have severe medical complexities that actually need to live in a hospital setting. And then we have behavioral health, outpatient therapies, and we also have foster care and adoption there as well. And so we have a location here in Louisville, which is our main campus, and then we also have one in Elizabethtown, serving those surrounding regions as well. And so really what we try to do as a therapeutic foster care program is just work with those youth that really have trouble finding places to go. There are foster care youth or youth that are in foster care that find a placement right away that they can find placement for quickly. But then there's those that maybe have a little bit more of a history as far as mental health or behavioral issues. And really that's the population that we're trying to serve, those youth that are harder to place. So oftentimes that can be young people that are teenagers, young people that are in sibling groups, young people that have medical complexities, or young people that just maybe have a little bit of a track record. And when foster parents receive that referral, they shy away a little bit from it. So that's really the population that we're working with.
So, according to your organization, there are currently over 8,000 children and adolescents in foster care across Kentucky. How dire is the situation locally?
Yes. Well, I don't know if you've been paying attention to the news or if others have, but one of the things that is coming up time and time again is there are young people sleeping in office buildings, DCBS office buildings, and sometimes these non-traditional placements also include young people being sent to other states to receive the services and the placement that they require, which is really unfortunate because I think the one thing that we really want for these young people is to find community and find some trusted adults, trusted peers that they can really fall back on in hard times or in good times. And that's the one thing that we're really focused on right now is making sure that we can help young people that are having a hard time finding placement stay here local.
And reunification is often the goal in foster care. How common is it, and what part do foster parents play in helping it happen?
Reunification is it happens quite a bit. So about 50% of the time. I know that doesn't sound like a lot, and we wish it would happen more. In fact, I think we want to be as preventative as possible because we know that the outcomes are best when young people are able to stay with their family of origin. But unfortunately, that's not always a possibility. So in cases when that's not a possibility, we want to recruit foster parents that are willing to adopt and stay with young people throughout their lives.
And Christy, anything to add on that?
I think building relationships with the family. And so even if like the children are in your care, you can build that relationship with the family. So even when the kids go home, you can keep that connection. Project Keep Safe is a program that Home of the Innocents has where children are placed in a foster home's care and then they go back to their biological parents. We've done several placements with that. And when those kids go back, like the mothers and fathers will reach out and be like, we're struggling with this. Do you have any resources? And you kind of build that relationship and you have a family with another family.
And I'll just add,
Sure.
the great part of that is these are usually single parents for Project Keep Safe that are oftentimes needing to go into some kind of inpatient treatment, whether, that could be for many different reasons. And so this is an opportunity for them to go get the help they need and know that their children are in a safe location, receiving extra care during that time, so that they can come back and, be the best parents that they can be as well. So really it's a preventative service to make sure that kids don't go into foster care in the first place. So that's something that we're trying to do on the front end as well. And actually the state is putting a lot of resources to preventative work like that as well.
Yeah, and actually that's something I want to get into. Are there any specific policies or changes at the state or local level you think could make a meaningful impact on the foster care system here?
Yeah, I would just say as far as resources, just allocating as many resources on the front end to the preventative work and making sure that we're working with families, making sure that we're working with the parents and supporting the parents. I think a lot of times the focus is only on children and young people, and that is really important as well. But we want to make sure that on the front end that we're supporting the families so that young people don't have to enter foster care in the first place. Because one of the things that we know is once they do and they're separated from their family, there's a lot of complicating issues that come out of that. And one of the things that we're seeing right now is about 25% of young people that age out of care, that means they are not adopted or don't go back to their family, end up being homeless at some point in time. And it's because of that lack of community, that lack of support structure, that's the case. And in some cases that can be prevented and we can put more resources into helping young people at that transitional age. I think that's important to focus on that as well. But if you're talking about keeping kids out of foster care in the first place, I think the preventative work is really important. I'd also just add that supporting increases for Medicaid rates across the state is really, really important. If you look at the other states that are surrounding us, they are sometimes at 20-25% higher in their Medicaid rates for things like therapy, wraparound services, and so forth. And that's not something that we're necessarily really focused on here in Kentucky, we are focused on trying to lobby for that, but that's not something that has passed through the legislature up to this point. And I think that's really, really important, not only for foster care, but for mental health, it being, Mental Health Awareness Month as well, to be focusing on that.
Yeah, so an investment from that area. But also, is there any systemic change you think is urgently needed as well to kind of support the foster care system here?
Just off the top of my head, I think it's just really important that we take this taboo away from young people in foster care, for one, and really there needs to be a lot more communication about the fact that these are not troubled youth. I see that a lot in the media. The youth that are sleeping in office buildings, or the youth that are in foster care, the youth that we're serving are troubled youth, when in fact developmentally they're very normal, and their reactions to being in foster care are very normal. I think anybody that would be separated from their birth family would be reacting the same way, whether you're an adult or a child, for that matter. So I think the taboo of that is really important. I think also trying to understand that in order to be involved with foster care, you don't need to just come in and be a foster parent or an adoptive parent. There's other ways that you can participate in the system and be a support. For one, right now we're looking for volunteers that can actually come in and teach independent living classes, for example, because a lot of the young people that end up being homeless out of foster care just don't have the basic skills to be independent, don't know how to necessarily go and budget for themselves, don't know how to go and find an apartment or build credit or do some of those basic things that is needed in order to be independent and be safe in our community.
And what about you, Christy? Like, from your experience, what do you think systemically could change to make a better experience for foster kids?
Just not looking at them as they're just a foster child. They're just a child. They're not a foster child. They're a child. Yes. And I think that lots of people view them as children that are troubled or that are bad kids. Mm-hmm. They're not bad kids. They were in bad situations, things that were out of their control. My kiddos, they're my favorite people in the whole world. They're fantastic. I have several that are gifted and talented, several that are inclined with vocational skills. They have goals. They have dreams just like everybody else. They're just a child. They're not a foster child.
So from your experience, on top of this misconception, what are some other common misconceptions about foster care that you've encountered?
Lots of people they say to me, "Oh, I couldn't do that. I couldn't do what you do. Oh, bless you for what you're doing." I'm not doing anything different. Everybody could be a foster parent or could help a foster parent in some way in the system. So if you can't take a child in your home because maybe you don't have space or your time and your schedule doesn't allow it, maybe you could do respite on the weekends. Maybe you could cook a meal for a foster family. Maybe you could donate goods to the Home of the Innocents. They're always looking for items to donate for the kids in the care. Maybe you could volunteer to teach an independent living class. Mm-hmm. Maybe there's different things you can do. So when people tell me, "Oh, I couldn't do what you do," or I couldn't be involved, you can be involved. It's a matter of looking to see what you can do to be involved.
And Christy, I know you fostered to adopt. If the goal for someone is to adopt, do you think foster care is a good route to go?
Yes. In my situation, I knew that we weren't going to be able to have children biologically, and I so desperately wanted to be a mom. So I was open to the possibility of adoption. When I started my journey, I initially said, I just want to foster. It's fine. I can foster and be adoptive home if it doesn't work out for them to go back home. And then now my heart, I've already adopted 7 kiddos, and I'm in the process of adopting 3 more. They tend to come, and the placements that I take, they tend to come and they stay. I have had several kids, some kids go return home because we fostered for a while. But when they stay, I don't understand why people could keep a kid in their home for 3 years and be like, "Oh, I'm not going to adopt that child." At that point, that child should be part of your family. From day one, we treat everybody as a family. They come in, they are a sibling to the other kids in the house. They are a child of mine. We're co-parenting with their biological home until if a decision is made, either they go back home or they stay here. So I think I look at it differently than other foster parents. For me, it's not another child just coming in, temporarily, or, this is my biological children and this is a foster child. They're all the same. Everybody's treated the same. Everybody has the same privileges. Everybody has the same goals. Like, we all have the same thing every day when we get up, like, we get our stuff done, and the expectations are the same for all the kids, not just the foster kids or the biological.
And Robby, I want to ask you, are there any misconceptions you'd want to address?
One of the things I try to do all the time, and I'm correcting myself when I say it, and Christy has already pointed this out, is I try not to call youth in foster care foster kids, because I think that really puts a label on them. I spoke a little bit about that taboo earlier. I think one big misconception that I struggle with is, and I'm asked this sometimes, is are the parents just doing it for the money? And in reality, the financial benefit that they receive really is just there to compensate them to cover any extra costs that they incur from having a young person in their home, whether that be grocery, whether that be utility costs or whatever that is, or even the cost of them going to daycare or being put into some extracurricular activity that they need to pay for. So I just want to point that out, that this is not a moneymaker, and that that's part of the reason why I advocated for increases in a financial commitment from the legislature as well. So I think that's a misconception. But the thing I would point out too is, foster parents it's a tough job. Being a parent is the hardest job in the world. Being a foster parent is even harder than that, because you not only do we struggle with the young person attaching to these new parents and trusting these adults when they couldn't even oftentimes trust the adults in their life to begin with. They're having to trust new adults, but these parents have to attach to these young people as well. It really goes both ways. And so that's something that I think takes a lot of work, takes a lot of therapy. It takes a lot of all kinds of people coming into your house, whether it's a state social worker or a case manager from your agency or a therapist or a CASA worker. It's really wonderful to have this huge support system, but at the same time, your home is under a microscope. There are people that are coming in and inspecting everything all the time, making sure that your home is safe, which is also another misconception, I think, at times, is that these homes really aren't looked into and to make sure they're safe. No, they do. They do federal background checks. They're doing that on an annual basis. There's all kinds of training that goes into this, especially for therapeutic foster parents that are with a private agency like ours.
Well, we'll be back with more in a moment. You're on track with Louisville Public Media.
In honor of Military Appreciation Month, Verizon thought of a lot of different ways we could show our appreciation, like rolling out the red carpet, giving you your own personal marching band, or throwing a bumping shindig. At Verizon, we're doing all that in the form of special military offers. That's why, this month only, we're giving military and veteran families a $200 Verizon gift card and a phone on us, with a select trade-in and a new line on select unlimited plans. Think of it as our way of flying a squadron of jets overhead while launching fireworks. Now that's what we call a celebration, because we're proud to serve you. Visit your local Verizon store to learn more. $200 Verizon gift card requires smartphone purchase $799.99 or more with new line on eligible plan. Gift card sent within 8 weeks after receipt of claim. Phone offer requires $799.99 purchase with new smartphone line on Unlimited Ultimate or Postpaid Unlimited Plus. Minimum plan $80 a month with autopay plus taxes and fees for 36 months. Less $800 trade-in or promo credit applied over 36 months. 0% APR. Trade-in must be from Apple, Google, or Samsung. Trade-in and additional terms apply.
Welcome to It Takes Energy, presented by Energy Transfer, where we talk all things oil and natural gas. Oil and gas drive our economy, ensure our country's security, and open pathways to brighter futures. When it comes to meeting the world's energy needs, more is better. What we mean is our world needs a wide range of energy sources to meet our increasing needs. Just wind or solar won't get us there, as the sun doesn't always shine and the wind doesn't always blow. With our growing population and the increasing use of energy-demanding technologies like AI, reliability is key, and the reliability of natural gas is unmatched by wind and solar. That doesn't mean we all can't work together, but natural gas is vital to ensuring we meet our energy needs. Look around, and you'll see the essential role oil and gas plays in our lives. Our world needs oil and gas, and people rely on us to deliver it. To learn more, visit energytransfer.com.
Welcome back to On Track. I'm Aisha Jaffer. May is National Foster Care Awareness Month, and today we're exploring the realities of foster care in Kentucky with Robby Gulick, the Vice President of Therapeutic Foster Care at Home of the Innocents, and Christy Lucas, a longtime foster and adoptive parent. Christy, can you share some of the realities of being a foster parent? What has been most rewarding, and what has surprised or challenged you the most?
Challenging, which Robby, he talked about a little bit about people coming into the house. I mean, there's a lot of appointments. So there's a lot of therapy appointments, there's medical appointments, there's dentist appointments, there's vision appointments, there's CASA, there's, if you have any outside resources, sometimes Aetna comes to the house. So there's a lot of scheduling. There's a lot that comes with the kiddos. So that can be challenging. I think I've gotten pretty good at that over the years. I'm pretty good and pretty organized and pretty scheduled. But the benefits of being a foster parent, I mean, I could never say, and I always tell the kids, I love you more than I could ever tell you. Like, there's not a word big enough for how much I love you. The kids are fantastic. Even if they're just with us for a little time or respite, like we enjoy having the kids in the house. The other kids enjoy it. I think it makes the kids that we have more compassionate towards other kids, because everybody who's been in our house or in our house currently have been in foster care. So when a new kid comes in, they're so welcoming. They see the kids like, okay, we know what we're going through. They kind of help out, like, the towels are in here or this goes here. They mentor the other kids, even the little ones. One of my adopted children, he's 7. He wanted a little sister or brother. So we have a current placement that she's up for it. She'll be adopted later this year. So he got his little sister. She's only 8 days younger than him, but he's taken on that big brother role very seriously. So like we go to the park, he's like, I'll push you on the swing. And I'm like, it's adorable because it's only 8 days. But I think it makes the kids, be more. They recognize when the kids come in that they might be struggling with things, and I think they're more compassionate and have more empathy for other children.
I love that. I love the big brother.
It's so cute.
Robby, I got to ask you, what steps are being taken to ensure foster care services in Kentucky are accessible and inclusive, especially when it comes to meeting the unique needs of children from diverse cultural and socioeconomic backgrounds?
Yeah, I mean, that's something that we really address right at the beginning when we first meet prospective parents for the first time. It's something that is addressed in our pre-service trainings with parents. That cultural piece is so important. You want to make sure that when young people are coming in that they feel comfortable, that they feel like they can be themselves, or they won't be themselves and they won't be honest and they won't tell you what their needs are. And that's something that's really important. I think if a young person is a minority in any kind of context within our society, that's something that we have to really pay special attention to and pay special care to as well. And that's something that we train our therapeutic foster parents on, to make sure that they know how to care for somebody that may be a little bit different from them or might have a value or something culturally unique that's different from them, and really be honestly curious about that and ask questions about it. Don't ignore it. Don't pretend like it's not there. Just be as open about that as possible and having those communications and asking those questions, because young people want you to be interested in them. They want you to be interested in their background and where they come from. And just because they don't live in that place or they're not continuing to go to that church or in that community, it doesn't mean that part has left them. And in fact, we need to continue to honor those pieces of them for as long as they live, because if you try to detach from that, and this is something that we see with young people in foster care a lot, is they'll try to detach from their past. It catches up with them in the end. And they have all kinds of issues or low feelings of low self-worth as a result of that, and that can materialize in other concerns. So that's something we pay close attention to.
No, I'm thinking about your 10 years in working in foster care, and all this time, is there a moment, big or small even, that has stayed with you?
I think there have been lots of moments where, there was times where we didn't fully ask those questions or really pay close attention to differences, where maybe, we weren't as well trained in this, or we didn't think about it in that way all the way back then. And a foster parent didn't pay as close attention to those differences that they had from them. We call them, a lot of times, for example, there's transracial adoptions where the youth is not the same race as their parent. And that can create some complexities in the relationship. Maybe there's a little bit of ignorance around the cultural difference from the foster parent's perspective, and they don't necessarily try to learn what those differences are or try to honor those differences. And I think once the young person grows up or becomes an age, becomes a young adult and is making that transition towards independence, though some of those resentments might come up, and it might materialize in, separation from that adoptive parent. And in fact, that's something that you will see pretty regularly if those are things that aren't addressed in those cases.
So you have kind of things in place to make sure that doesn't sort of lean
that way.
Yeah.
Yes, and one of the things I'll just mention that, on that note, that we're seeing more of is kind of an adoption competence throughout the state. I'll give the Department of Community-Based Services big kudos for bringing in an outside organization to Kentucky to really try to train all of our foster parents, all of our staff that are working with young people in foster care, in this adoption competency. And that's not something I had the benefit of when I first became a clinician working with foster youth or youth that are in foster care, is having this competence of understanding the unique experience of coming into foster care and moving towards adoption potentially, and then all the complexities that come along with that. And, I alluded to it earlier, just because you're being adopted now doesn't mean that you lose that history or that past or your birth family. All of that needs to come with you. And so that's something that I think we're focused a lot more on. And it's that piece about grieving and that loss that comes along with an adoption. Just because an adoption is a happy time on one side, it doesn't mean that there isn't grief and loss that's associated with that as well. And that's something that we're paying a lot more attention to in the state of Kentucky.
Christy, I want to ask you, why is foster care something that should matter to the broader community, even to those who may not directly be involved?
Well, I think that in your communities, you have school systems, you have hospitals, you have all these different people and places. They're all coming in contact with these children. So I think everybody should be informed, that they come with some trauma. Everybody has trauma. I have trauma. I wasn't in foster care. But maybe looking at being more supportive and finding out how you can support them. And I think that we all come in contact with these kids every day.
Robby, anything you would add?
So I think it affects us, every single one of us. There's you talked earlier about the numbers of young people that are coming through the foster care system, or at least are in a foster care system at one time. There's more young people that actually come through the foster care system and then go back to their parents' homes. And the reality of it is it has a big effect on young people. And it has a big effect on young people as they grow. There are more mental health issues that are associated with going into foster care. I talked about it earlier, there's a higher percentage of young people that become homeless after they've entered foster care and then exited foster care. And if we look at the broader issues in our society, mental health, homelessness, some of those things, it really affects that. And if we can really work on the front end to support these families that are doing this good work in foster care, if we can really invest in those preventative services to help those families so that they don't have to be separated in the first place, you're going to see a lot of those statistics, those statistics we don't like to see in our state go down overall. And that's hard, I think, for people to kind of link up sometimes, but it's the truth, and it's why I continue to do the work that I do.
And you mentioned some volunteer opportunities and things like that. How do you feel community members can better support foster families and the foster care system as a whole?
Yeah, I think one of the easiest ways to do it is just to go to homeoftheinnocents.org and click on the volunteer link and talk to our team at Home of the Innocents about some of the opportunities that are there. But there are other great organizations throughout the state that are doing similar work to ours. And, if you feel more inclined to work with one of those organizations, step up and do that. And we know that we need you, and we will give you, we'll give you things to do, especially like what Christy talked about earlier, which is supporting families in different ways by providing respite, or maybe coming in and providing a meal during a support group, or even a class for independent living.
Yeah, Christy, anything you would want to do to add as far as the community getting more involved?
I have to say that Home of the Innocents is fantastic. I couldn't have done what I've done with the kids without them, without their training, without their support. So if you could support Home of the Innocents in any way, I'm on board for that. And just find out how you can support. Everybody says they can't do this, but they can do something.
And Robby, before I let you guys go, for those listening who might be interested, what's the first step to becoming a foster parent?
Yeah, so I would say the easiest way to do it is to look us up. Google us, call us, Home of the Innocents, homeoftheinnocents.org. You can sign up through our page. There's an inquiry form on the page where you just give a little bit of your information, and then we'll reach out to you, set up an orientation. And just because you complete an orientation with us doesn't mean that you're having to do anything in particular. You're just learning more about foster care in general, and we love to talk about it with you. We love to educate people, so please.
Robert, Christy, thanks so much for being here on Track.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Robby Gulick is a licensed clinical social worker and the Vice President of Therapeutic Foster Care at Home of the Innocents, a Louisville nonprofit supporting children and families through foster care, adoption, and pediatric services. And Christy Lucas is a longtime foster and adoptive parent who has been advocating for children for over 20 years as a social worker, psych director, and a parent. On Track is a production of Louisville Public Media. The On Track production team includes Michelle Tyreen Johnson, Alex Biscardi, and Laura Ellis. Our music is by Kojin Tashiro. If you'd like to visit the episode or explore other community-focused conversations, visit LouisvilleOnTrack.org or find us wherever you get your podcasts. Have feedback or ideas for a future show? Connect with us at 502-814-TALK or ontrack@lpm.org. I'm Aisha Jaffer, and remember, being kind is free. That's the start of community. Until next time, you're on track with Louisville Public Media.
In honor of Military Appreciation Month, Verizon thought of a lot of different ways we could show our appreciation, like rolling out the red carpet, giving you your own personal marching band, or throwing a bumping shindig. At Verizon, we're doing all that in the form of special military offers. That's why, this month only, we're giving military and veteran families a $200 Verizon gift card and a phone on us, with a select trade-in and a new line on select unlimited plans. Think of it as our way of flying a squadron of jets overhead while launching fireworks. Now that's what we call a celebration, because we're proud to serve you. Visit your local Verizon store to learn more. $200 Verizon gift card requires smartphone purchase $799.99 or more with new line on eligible plan. Gift card sent within 8 weeks after receipt of claim. Phone offer requires $799.99 purchase with new smartphone line on Unlimited Ultimate or Postpaid Unlimited Plus. Minimum plan $80 a month with autopay plus taxes and fees for 36 months. Less $800 trade-in or promo credit applied over 36 months. 0% APR. Trade-in must be from Apple, Google, or Samsung. Trade-in and additional terms apply.
Welcome to It Takes Energy, presented by Energy Transfer, where we talk all things oil and natural gas. Oil and gas drive our economy, ensure our country's security, and open pathways to brighter futures. What do you know about oil and natural gas? You likely associate them with running your car or heating your home. But these two natural resources fuel so much more than that. More than 6,000 consumer products that we rely on every day are made using oil and gas. Before you even step out the door in the morning, you've already used more products made possible because of oil and gas than you realize. From the toothpaste you brush your teeth with, the soap you washed your face with, and the sheets you slept on. Not to mention your makeup, contact lenses, clothes, and shoes. Oil and gas are vital parts of all these products and so many more. Look around, and you'll see the essential role oil and gas plays in our lives. Our world needs oil and gas, and people rely on us to deliver it. To learn more, visit energytransfer.com.